Good morning, preppers. Happy Saturday to you. I hope your preps are going well and you are stocking up and taking care of what you need to. And I'm going to shift gears again today and talk about an email I received. Let's check it out. I kept this anonymous because it's not about trashing the person who sent it, even though I disagree. Look at this. Not everyone can become a prepper. You don't become a prepper. It's in your DNA. You don't learn a skill. You already have it. It's just the right situation that brings it out. And as we'll see in this video, there's truth to this, but a lot of falseness too. There's a lot of garbage in here. Because what we're getting back to is the old debate of nature versus nurture. And I mean, I think most people already know what this is, but if not, nature is what your DNA tells you to do. And your DNA, by the way, all your DNA does is makes proteins. Okay, it's a really sophisticated, long process that makes proteins. Then the proteins carry out you. It's everything from your anatomy, your eye color, and your height and weight and all that stuff, to physiology too, how much energy you have, metabolism, even if you're actually even predestined to have certain cancers. And for the longest time, people argued, is it DNA that causes the proteins or the proteins that cause the DNA? But it was clearly devised now. The DNA makes your proteins. Then the proteins are kind of like the workers. The DNA is almost like the blueprint. The workers look at the blueprint, the DNA, and then they carry it out through the actions through proteins. Okay. So with this, how much of what we do is actually done through your DNA and proteins and carry out functions? And how much of it is, well, the way we're brought up? Because understand, as children, we get into these paradoxes, and maybe that's time travel, but we get into these situations where we look at, well, maybe two twins that were separated at birth, do they actually have certain things they do? And it's actually been conclusively concluded that, yes, there are certain things. Like there's a study where they found two identical twins that were separated at birth, and they had a whole list of all the same things that they were, but they both did. They were both firefighters. They both did this and this and this. It was really interesting. Now, before we continue on with nature versus nurture, I want you to understand that all this is completely separate from IQ, your intelligent quotient, because your IQ, the higher your IQ goes, the more you're able to actually be able to carry out more tasks and functions. You find people who are like jack of all trades, master of none. They can't master things. Usually, not always, but usually those people have a higher IQ and they have a more difficult time fitting into one specific aspect of life. That's separate because IQ is able to figure things out. And even if you actually don't have DNA that makes it so you're really prone to becoming like a firefighter, for example, again, your IQ still allows you to do it. Okay? Because your DNA puts you in that specific situation. But what we're getting into in this argument, and really is what's called epigenetics. And epigenetics is this. Let's say a person actually has an entire DNA code to be able to code to make certain proteins and such. But because of that person's experiences, and that's what the person who sent me the email is arguing, is saying epigenetics comes into place, is let's say their genetics really makes it so they are very good at becoming like a firefighter, for example. But their experiences in life simply just made it so that particular genome on their DNA wasn't turned on, because our body can actually turn on and turn off certain DNA sequences at will. You don't need those proteins. Let's turn off that part of the DNA, because you don't want to be making proteins you don't need. It's a waste of time and energy, mind you. Okay. So let's say the person does become a firefighter. And let's say they actually have a genome that actually matches very well so they can actually have those interests and it becomes second nature to them, etc. Then that person is now fulfilling what they were meant to be. I really hate that meant to be, because when you get into that situation where you try to look at certain circumstances where people are automatically put into a box, like that is what you're going to do, that goes completely against the way I want things to be. I would love to have it where every single person on the planet has the potential and the will of what they want to be, not what somebody or even their DNA orchestrates them. But that's just me. But you have to look at it this way. If that DNA is actually centered to make it so that person is destined to be a firefighter, then there's not really any argument there, because once that person becomes a firefighter, they'll actually feel more fulfilled because that's what clicks with them. It's what does very well for them. But we're humans. It is very difficult to put us in a box. It's very difficult to make it so we don't expand boundaries and learn and actually grow, even as an individual. So I don't like this email where that said basically you don't learn a skill, you already have it. You have to have the right situation brings it out. Even though epigenetics kind of leans on that side, they're still wrong. And here's why. And again, it's not about trashing that person, because the problem is, and let me ask you this, what is prepping? Think about it. I mean, what is prepping? In our modern culture, we think, just mankind now thinks that, oh, when I want ground beef, it comes in a styrofoam plate from the grocery store. When I want some corn, it comes in, whoops, sorry, I should turn my sound off on that. When I want some corn, I want a can of corn, or I want corn, I buy it in the can from the grocery store. Or if I need light in my house, well, I'm not going to try to burn a candle, but I have this thing called a light bulb I buy from Walmart. Or I need my house to be warm. That little thermostat box on the wall, I press the right temperature and out it comes. And I think what happens is because of technology, we've become way too dependent on technology. And therefore what happens is we lose out on a lot of things that we actually had innate abilities for. And that's actually where the person in the email is wrong, is because we all have innate abilities. Innate is simply this. You were born with skills. Everybody was born with skills. And on the very basic level, skills would be, well, when that baby's born, they can breathe. I mean, even if actually a baby is premature and they don't have the right types of surfactants in their lungs to make it so they can breathe, they still have the ability to breathe. In fact, their diaphragm will try to push it so they can breathe. Everybody has the ability to, and here's where we're getting into it, the ability to eat. And again, I know there's situations with like cleft palates and stuff, it makes it more difficult, but everybody has the ability to eat. They don't have to teach a baby to eat. The baby will, I mean, you may have fussy babies who don't want to, but everybody eats. That's the whole thing is. And when we talk about prepping, all I'm saying is prepping is, it's our ability to live. It's our ability to live. We've been prepping. Think about this. It's only in modern times people don't prep. Besides modern culture, people have been prepping for thousands of years. So 2,000 years ago, people automatically knew how to build a fire to keep warm because that's what they were taught from their parents. And people knew how to actually cook food, even do preservations of food. Even ancient Egyptians actually preserved food. It's not an innate ability. It's not something we have to learn. It's not your experience in DNA. It's life. Prepping is life. The problem is people have gone away from prepping into modern conveniences, and they don't really know how to go back. The person who sent me that email is saying they can't go back. Only these certain people have this DNA. What a load of crap. That's ridiculous. You're saying that, since we actually went into modern times and we drink nothing but protein shakes, you can't go back and eat a steak now. That's basically what they're saying, which is absolutely crap. I don't believe in that rhetoric. And the point of this video is for you. You shouldn't believe in that either. I'm always the person, especially with my children, other people's kids, even adults too. I try to give them pep talks and say, listen, don't listen to their garbage. When they come to tell you you can't do that, you do it just to spite them, because nobody can put you in a box and say you can't do certain things. Now, again, this is not about intelligence quotient. There are some people who are born with very low IQs and they have limited abilities. That's not what we're talking about. But on the same note, we're also not talking about somebody who actually has the DNA and abilities to become like a rocket scientist or some huge theoretical doctor. Or I'm not saying all those are even great either. We're not saying the extremes, but the general populace, 99% of the population, you don't have to be a rocket scientist, and you don't have to, you have more than just a very low IQ. Everybody can prep. Now, I'll say it again, like that firefighter. Sure, you have certain gifts that lead you toward certain paths. This person is very inside the box and thinks very logically. Maybe that'd be a good engineer or a physicist. This person is very abstract and does these things. This person would be good like in art. And the list goes on and on as far as the spectrum of the different things people could be gifted at. But prepping is not about gifts. And that's what the moral of the story is. This person is saying only the people who have these gifts to be preppers, these innate abilities to be preppers, can prep. Crap. That is a bunch of garbage. Everybody can do it. Now, community is key, because maybe you're not a mechanic. Maybe you're more into medicine. The mechanic person's better at fixing your car or devices, while you actually can render medical stuff and teach them medical stuff. While this person over here may be geared toward security. And the list goes on and on. So it's rare to find somebody who's good at everything. Okay. In fact, the more you are good at everything, jack of all trades, the more difficult it is, because wearing so many hats, you're not efficient in any one particular hat is usually what happens. So community is key. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have community and this person's gifted for this person's gifted for that. But the whole point is coming together as a community so you can all help each other out. And how many times do I stress that in the channel? Community is everything. But you know what? When it comes down to your DNA, so the person is kind of right. You don't become a prepper, it's in your DNA. You don't learn a skill, you already have it. It's the right situation that brings it out, is absolutely right. But I'm saying everybody has that DNA with very, very rare exceptions. Everybody has that DNA. It's called living. It's called survival. So their very first statement is not everyone to become a prepper. That's where they're completely wrong. Everyone already is a prepper. The only reason that we're not prepping is because of modern conveniences. And how do I know this? Because we have thousands of years of mankind surviving on the planet. Shows that as a human race, we are preppers. And so if you ever have doubts with yourself, just remember, you are meant to do this. You are meant to prep. Everybody is meant to prep. It's called survival. Unfortunately, we actually have a specific system set in place, orchestrated or not, which kind of takes those abilities and drives away from you. So that way you don't have to worry about prepping. And that's actually where we look at it could be dangerous. But can everyone be a prepper? Without a doubt. It's called living. It's called life. So don't listen to people's rhetoric and all their garbage that they say you shouldn't prep and things like that, because they're absolutely wrong. In fact, if anything, you shouldn't get caught up in the system that provides those things for you. Because if that system collapses, well, then we have a channel called Goshen Prepping to try to get you back into the old way of doing things, so that way you don't depend on the system all your life. So anyway, I hope this helps and hope it gives you a little bit of motivation and a different way to look at things. Thanks so much for watching.